There's a quiet strength in a man who walks his path alone, not because he has to, but because he chooses to understand himself before expecting anyone else to. In a world that constantly pushes the idea that happiness is only found through someone else, it takes courage to sit with your own company and still find peace. Solitude is often misunderstood. In a world dominated by constant connection, endless scrolling, and the pressure to always be seen with someone, the idea of being alone can feel almost rebellious. But solitude, true, intentional solitude, is not loneliness. It is strength. It is the space where a man begins to understand himself, not through the eyes of others, but through the quiet honesty of his own presence. In solitude, a man learns to face the silence without fear. There are no distractions, no conversations to hide behind, no relationships to lean on for a sense of identity. It is just him, his thoughts, his goals, his fears, his truth. At first, that can be uncomfortable. Silence can feel heavy when you're used to filling it with noise. But over time, that silence becomes sacred. It becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, he sees not who he's supposed to be, but who he really is. Without the constant influence of others, a man begins to define success on his own terms. He sets his own standards, grounded in his values, not in someone else's expectations. There's no pretending, no performance. There's just real work on his mind, his discipline, his purpose. In solitude, the distractions fall away, and what remains is focus. A deep, uninterrupted focus that most people never experience because they're always surrounded by movement, by voices, by opinions. But the man who embraces solitude gains clarity. He learns what matters, what doesn't, and what he's willing to fight for. Solitude teaches resilience. When there's no one else around to pick you up after a failure, you learn to get up on your own. You learn to carry the weight, to keep going when no one sees, when no one praises you, when no one cares. That kind of strength isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause. It's forged quietly in the grind, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the days where giving up would be easier. But you don't. There's a different kind of freedom in walking alone. It's not the freedom from responsibility or connection, but the freedom to become. To become the kind of man who doesn't need someone else to make him whole, who's already whole, already grounded, already at peace with who he is and where he's going. And when love does enter the picture, it's not out of desperation. It's not a search for completion. It's a choice made from strength, not need. This kind of solitude isn't about isolation or bitterness. It's about preparation. It's about sharpening your character when no one's watching, because you know that life doesn't owe you anything. And yet, you owe yourself everything. It's about standing firm in a world that constantly tries to shake your foundation, simply because you know who you are. Solitude is not a weakness to hide or a phase to escape. It's a powerful space where a man transforms, not with noise, not with validation, but with quiet, steady, focused strength. And once you've built yourself in solitude, once you've faced the silence and come out stronger, there is very little the world can do to shake you, because you've already found your anchor not in others, but in yourself. In today's culture, there is a constant message that if you're not in a relationship, you're incomplete. Movies, social media, advertising, and even casual conversations are full of subtle and not so subtle suggestions that romantic companionship is the ultimate validation of worth. For a man choosing to live without a girlfriend, this pressure can be overwhelming. The world may not understand his decision. Friends might question it, family may worry about it, and society often labels it as unnatural or unfortunate. But resisting that pressure is not weakness or stubbornness. It's strength. There is real power in choosing not to conform to the timeline or expectations set by others. Not everyone is built the same, and not everyone needs the same things at the same time. A man who refuses to rush into relationships for the sake of appearances is not avoiding love. He's choosing authenticity. He's not interested in temporary distractions or shallow connections. Instead, he is committed to finding something meaningful, something real, and if that takes time, so be it. That level of patience and conviction takes maturity, not detachment. It's easy to give in to the pressure, to date for convenience, to stay in a relationship that doesn't align with your values, or to pursue people simply because you fear being alone. But when a man stands against all that, when he chooses to live life on his terms, it shows he values himself enough not to settle. He understands that being in a relationship isn't what makes a man valuable. Character, purpose, and self-respect do. He doesn't need a partner to justify his existence or define his success. By resisting social pressure, a man gives himself space to build a life rooted in intention, not expectation. He creates goals that reflect his own passions and standards. He invests his energy in personal growth, not constant validation. He builds friendships that are genuine and seeks connection based on alignment, not desperation. The world may call that lonely, but in truth, it's liberating. This resistance also reveals a deeper sense of confidence. It shows that a man is not afraid of judgment. He's not living for the approval of strangers or the comfort of fitting in. He's willing to be misunderstood, even criticized, because he knows what he's building is real. That kind of confidence can't be faked. It comes from knowing who you are, what you want, and being willing to walk alone until you find it. There's also an honesty in not pretending. Some people enter relationships just to appear normal, to silence the questions, to feel like they're keeping up. But when you resist that pressure, you commit to a higher standard of truth. You don't hide behind someone else. You don't chase love to escape discomfort. Instead, you deal with that discomfort head on. You grow from it, and over time you become someone who doesn't need a relationship to feel whole, but who can offer something meaningful when the right one comes along. The world may not applaud this kind of path. It may call it unusual or sad, but those who have the strength to live honestly without the mask of conformity often end up far ahead. They've taken the time to build depth, not just connection, and when love does enter their life, it's not rushed or forced, it's earned. It's a complement to a life already rich with purpose, not a patch for emptiness. Resisting social pressure isn't easy. It requires awareness, self-trust, and the ability to stay centered in a noisy world. But it leads to a kind of freedom that many never find, the freedom to live a life that's yours, fully and unapologetically. Before any meaningful relationship can flourish, self-development must come first. Building a solid foundation within yourself is not just important, it's essential. A man who chooses to focus on personal growth before pursuing romantic attachments isn't avoiding love, he's preparing for it in the most honest way possible. He knows that bringing his best self to the table matters more than simply having someone to share a table with. Without that foundation, relationships often become a place to hide weaknesses, not grow past them. Self-development is about becoming more capable, more grounded, and more in control of your life. It's about understanding your own thoughts, managing your emotions, and learning discipline over comfort. This kind of internal work doesn't happen when your energy is constantly split between seeking approval and managing a relationship. It requires time alone, effort, and a deep sense of purpose, and it's not glamorous. It's built in early mornings, late nights, long workouts, focused reading, uncomfortable decisions, and quiet reflection. When a man puts self-development first, he's doing more than just bettering himself. He's building a vision for his life that isn't dependent on others to feel fulfilled. He's shaping his character, defining his values, and working to align his actions with them. He's learning how to handle setbacks, how to stay focused under pressure, and how to keep moving forward when motivation fades. These lessons aren't just useful, they are essential in every area of life, including relationships. Without a strong sense of self, it's easy to fall into patterns of emotional dependence, where love becomes a way to escape personal emptiness rather than share personal strength. A man who has taken the time to grow doesn't need someone to fix him, save him, or validate him. He's already done the work of building self, worth from within, so when he does meet someone, he's not looking to be completed. He's looking to complement and be complimented. That creates a foundation for respect, not neediness. For love, not attachment. Self-development also brings clarity. It allows a man to recognize what truly matters to him and what he will or won't tolerate. It makes his standards clearer, his boundaries stronger, and his choices more intentional. He doesn't fall for surface-level attraction or emotional highs. He looks deeper, values deeper, and connects on a level that is based on shared values, not fleeting chemistry. This clarity helps avoid wasted time and emotional drama that often come with relationships pursued before real self-awareness is developed. The process of self-development is not linear. It involves setbacks, mistakes, and doubts. But each challenge builds mental toughness. Each failure teaches resilience. Over time, a man who prioritizes self-growth becomes someone who can not only survive hard times, but thrive through them. He becomes someone others can count on, not because he pretends to be strong, but because he has proven his strength to himself. Focusing on personal development is not selfish, it's responsible. A man who works on becoming the best version of himself is more capable of supporting others, loving with depth, and committing with integrity. He doesn't just want to be in a relationship, he wants to be ready for one. And readiness isn't just about finances or status. It's about emotional maturity, self-control, and a clear sense of identity. A man who puts self-development first is laying the groundwork for everything else. He's choosing the long game over short-term comfort. He's betting on himself, and that kind of investment pays off in every part of life, including love. Because when you know who you are, and you've built something solid within yourself, you're not just prepared to love. You're prepared to lead, to protect, and to grow together. And that makes all the difference. Living with intentional standards means choosing to live by principles, not pressure. It's about knowing what you want, what you deserve, and what you're willing to give, not just in relationships, but in every area of life. A man who lives with intentional standards isn't being picky or arrogant. He's being clear. He's taken the time to define his values and is unwilling to compromise them for temporary satisfaction or superficial connection. This clarity doesn't come overnight. It comes from experience, reflection, and often from disappointment. When a man has been through enough to know what drains him and what builds him, he starts to make decisions with more purpose. He no longer says yes to every opportunity, every relationship, or every situation that presents itself. He understands that time and energy are limited resources, and giving them away carelessly only leads to regret. Intentional standards are not about building walls. They're about creating filters. A man with standards doesn't reject people because he thinks he's better. He simply recognizes misalignment early and avoids wasting time, his or theirs. He isn't interested in drama, confusion, or mixed signals. He looks for consistency, honesty, and shared values, because he knows a relationship built on charm but lacking character will eventually collapse. These standards extend beyond relationships. They apply to how a man treats his body, how he manages his time, what kind of friends he keeps, what kind of work he does, and how he speaks to himself. When you live intentionally, every part of your life reflects your commitment to growth. You don't settle for average because you're not trying to impress others. You're trying to live in alignment with who you want to become. A man with standards doesn't chase validation. He doesn't move just because others are moving. He pauses, he evaluates, and if something or someone doesn't meet the level he's worked hard to reach, he's willing to walk away, no matter how attractive the option might seem in the moment. That kind of discipline is rare, and it's powerful. because it means his self. Worth isn't up for negotiation. Having intentional standards also means knowing what you're bringing to the table. It's not just about expecting more, it's about becoming more. A man can't demand loyalty, depth, or ambition from someone else if he hasn't cultivated those traits in himself. Standards aren't demands made of others. They're reflections of who you are and what you've built within. This kind of living demands patience. It means saying no more than yes. It means walking away when others would settle. It means being alone longer than most people are comfortable with. But that patience builds quality. And quality is worth the wait, because when you finally meet someone or find a situation that aligns with your values, it's not luck. It's the result of every intentional decision that came before. Society often teaches people to be flexible, to lower expectations for the sake of connection. But flexibility without boundaries turns into self-betrayal. Intentional standards protect you from that. They help you stay grounded when emotions run high. They remind you of what truly matters when life tries to distract you with noise and shortcuts. A man who lives by intentional standards is not just trying to survive. He's trying to live with purpose. Every choice he makes, every boundary he sets, every person he lets in, reflects the life he's trying to build. And that life isn't driven by fear of missing out. It's guided by a clear sense of what's worth holding out for. Because when you know your worth and live by it, the right people, opportunities, and outcomes naturally align. Not by chance, but by design. Internal motivation is one of the most powerful forces a person can cultivate. It's the drive that comes from within, not from applause, recognition, or rewards. It's what keeps a man moving forward when no one is watching, when the world is silent, and when there's no external encouragement to lean on. This kind of motivation is rooted in purpose, in self-discipline, and in a deep understanding of why something matters. It doesn't fade when things get hard. In fact, it often grows stronger during adversity. Most people are driven by what they can see. They move when someone is cheering for them, when there's a prize at the end, or when they feel noticed. But that kind of motivation is fragile. The moment the praise stops or the results take longer than expected, it crumbles. Internal motivation, on the other hand, doesn't depend on any of that. It's consistent. It's reliable. It's forged in silence, built through repetition, and kept alive by vision. When a man learns to rely on internal motivation, he becomes nearly unstoppable. He doesn't need anyone to push him out of bed in the morning. He doesn't wait for the perfect conditions to act. He shows up even when it's inconvenient. He trains when he's tired, studies when he's bored, and works when no one is asking him to. He does it because he knows where he's going, and he's made peace with the fact that much of the journey will be walked alone. Internal motivation builds resilience. Life will test you through failure, rejection, delays, and discouragement. If your fire is lit only by others, you'll quit when things get tough. But when the drive comes from within, you can endure. You can keep pushing through the days that feel heavy, through the moments that offer no reward, and through the seasons where nothing seems to be going your way. That's the kind of mindset that separates those who finish from those who just start. It also creates freedom. When you don't rely on external praise to feel valuable, you're no longer controlled by it. You're not chasing approval, and you're not afraid of criticism. You move with purpose, not popularity. You choose the hard road when it's right, even if it's not admired. That independence is rare, and it's what gives real leaders their edge. They don't follow the crowd. They lead themselves, and in doing so, inspire others to do the same. Internal motivation makes your work deeper and your results more meaningful. Because it's not about proving something to the world, it's about honoring a commitment to yourself. That commitment is powerful. It shows self-respect, and over time it becomes your identity. You no longer see discipline as a task. You see it as a reflection of who you are. You don't need to hype yourself up. You just do the work, because that's what you've trained yourself to do. There will be times when doubt creeps in, times when you question if the effort is worth it. That's normal, but internal motivation reminds you of the bigger picture. It keeps your eyes on the process, not just the outcome. It allows you to trust that progress is happening, even when you can't see it yet. And that trust builds confidence, the kind that isn't loud, but steady and unshakable. At its core, internal motivation is about ownership. It means taking full responsibility for your growth, your success, your mindset. It means no more excuses, no more waiting, no more blaming circumstances. You move because you choose to. You keep going because you've decided you won't quit. That's what makes internal motivation so powerful. It's the engine that never runs out because it's powered by purpose, not permission. Choosing to live alone without a partner is often misunderstood as loneliness. Society tends to look at singleness as a gap that needs to be filled, as if being alone is a sign that something is missing. But there's a powerful difference between being alone and being lonely. One is a choice, the other is a mindset. When a man chooses solitude for a period of his life, it isn't about isolation. It's about preparation. It's about using this time to become someone stronger, more focused, more intentional, and ultimately, more ready for whatever life has in store. Preparation is a quiet, personal process. It doesn't look impressive from the outside. It lacks the glamour that social media rewards, but it's in this time of preparation that real growth happens. It's when a man learns how to handle responsibility, how to manage his emotions, how to navigate life without depending on someone else to make him feel whole. This isn't about rejecting love or companionship. It's about recognizing that before you can share your life with someone else, you need to know who you are and what you stand for. When a man lives alone, he has the chance to build discipline without distraction. He learns how to structure his day, how to push himself toward goals, how to keep promises to himself. There is no one there to hold him accountable, no partner to impress, just him. And if he can develop consistency in this space, he's building something unshakable. He's not training to be perfect. He's training to be solid, dependable, and clear-minded, qualities that become invaluable when relationships do come into his life. During this season of preparation, he also learns to find peace in his own company. That's a rare skill in today's world. Most people fear being alone because they've never learned to enjoy it. But a man who can sit in silence and feel grounded isn't empty. He's full of understanding, full of self-respect, full of vision. And when he meets someone in the future, he brings that fullness into the relationship. He's not seeking someone to complete him, but someone to walk alongside him. This mindset protects against settling. When a man has taken the time to build himself, he's less likely to accept something that doesn't align with his values or his future. He doesn't get pulled in by surface-level attraction or temporary comfort. He's already found comfort within himself, so he waits, not out of fear, not out of arrogance, but out of a deep respect for what he's building and who he's becoming. Preparation also gives clarity. With no one else influencing his decisions, he learns to trust his instinct. He sets goals that reflect his real desires, not ones shaped by outside expectations. He learns what kind of partner would complement his life, not just fit into it. This clarity becomes a powerful guide later, helping him choose wisely and love deeply without losing himself in the process. To outsiders, this season may look like loneliness, but for the man in it, it's anything but its work, its vision, its strategy, its healing, its strength. It's the quiet before the storm of life's next chapter, and how well that chapter goes depends heavily on how well this one is lived. Being alone doesn't mean being behind. It means being honest enough to pause, to prepare, to do the hard inner work that many skip in the rush to be seen, loved, or needed. But those who choose preparation over distraction, growth over quick fixes, and patience over pressure, are the ones who eventually find love and purpose that are real, lasting, and deeply fulfilling. Choosing to live without a girlfriend is not a sign of failure, weakness, or something missing. It's a conscious decision to build a life rooted in strength, clarity, and purpose. It's about valuing solitude not as a void, but as a season of growth. It's in this space that a man sharpens his mind, strengthens his character, and sets his standards, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. While the world may not always understand this path, those who walk it know its worth. They aren't avoiding love. They're preparing to love from a place of wholeness, not need. They're not behind. They're building. And when the time comes to share life with someone, they'll do so not from a place of emptiness, but from a place of abundance. This journey isn't about being alone forever. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't just find the right person, but is ready for them. So if you're in that season now, stand firm in it. Keep growing. Keep building, because this isn't loneliness, this is preparation. And it's one of the strongest, most valuable decisions you'll ever make.